Bula Vinaka Everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're here for the first time, I welcome you. If you're one of those who have been watching my previous videos and you've been anticipating this one, thank you so much for using this as a revision tool and also to help you further understand what you've learned in class today. So as the title says, I will be discussing a Fiji Year 13 literature essay, prose, under the theme love, which is the short stories. So we are going to do Harry and the Girl Who Had Everything. Now, as my previous video on poetry for Fiji Year 13 literature essay, I really like to talk on style because I think style is or literary device is a very pivotal tool when it comes to bringing out the messages in these poems. So just excuse my voice a bit, I'm a bit under the weather. So we will be going slow with my discussion. Now, I'm forever grateful for those who've been commenting on my previous videos on your queries. Once again, students, this is just a brief discussion. So if you are requesting long essays that I reply to your messages, please direct them to your teachers. I am just here to further make you understand some things. And also this is to help my students whom I am teaching right now. So without further ado, let's delve into our discussion. So the question that I've chosen, they are from a previous external paper. So if you have come across this is the exact question. So choose any two short stories you have studied this year, and for each, clearly identify and discuss two literary devices used by the authors to convey the central message in each story. So these words are highlighted or they are in bold and underlined so we can further break down our question. First part, you are going to identify the two short stories. So it does not say under which theme, but I have chosen love because not only does this bring out two literary devices, and it was very key to bring out the central message, but usually I find the theme love, the two short stories that come with it, quite interesting. So those two short stories will be discussed today, which I have written down here. Two literary devices. Another word for literary devices is the style that was used by the by the author in our case. And with the central message, we all know that is the themes of our short story. So your first mark will come from the title and author. So these are respectively half mark each. So Harry, Harry, the Girl Who Had Everything. Please be careful of your spelling, and you need to have quotation marks for title only. For author, Rosemary Timperley and Alan Conford. Spelling too is very important. Remember, in year 13, if there is any spelling errors, it is automatically 0. So if you have an L missing here, or if you have an R, so any spelling error from the title to the author, you get 0. So now let's move on to the plan with a total of 2 marks. So our plan, students, as I explained earlier in the previous essay, plan is meant to be just the skeleton of your essay, what you are meant to write in the full or final essay. So this is the first and important part of your essay, your introduction. There are 3 parts to the first paragraph. First, you have general statement. Some of you can rephrase, reword, or paraphrase the question. While some of you, as taught by your teachers, you usually either define the theme, which is love in this case, or you make a general statement how authors use literary devices to bring out the central message, which ties to our question. Next part is including the titles, authors of short stories selected. That is also important. I've come across papers that I've marked in the past where they automatically assume that as we read into the essay that we are supposed to know which text they are talking about. Please, students, you are to write the title and authors of the short stories that you have selected that you will discuss in your essay. Next is the purpose or the thesis statement. So you're just going to give brief details of your essay content. That will get you 1 mark in the final. Moving on, we'll have the body and content. So I find it easier to do a table Okay, just for referencing purposes, this isn't an essay that I had written. It was given by a workmate. So this, which I also use as well as a reference, it is much easier to write it in table format. So try and use tables to write your body or the content of your essay. So first column, you'll write the title of short story, then you'll have the literary device from that title, and then the themes and the messages that brought about through the literary device. So first one was symbolism and imagery. Remember, Harry is not your ordinary paranormal or scary story or ghost story. It had to, as is most horror stories, it had to use images and symbols to bring out the fear. So images, the quote from the short story, such images as sunshine, sharp shadows on grass, white roses, children with red hair. So this, if you have read the text, you know that this is the opening line and also the closing line to the short story, Harry. The theme that came out through that literary device was love, care, and affection, and also obsession. You would see that Harry, to the extreme, was obsessed with his baby sister. Even after death, he was prepared to go through purgatory just so he could be with his sister. The next the next literary device is the first person narration. Readers, you and I saw the story through the eyes of Mrs. James. It allows us to feel a mother's desperation in trying to get her daughter away from the obsessive Harry. So you know, after reading the story, that the whole story was said through Mrs. James's perspective. From the time she first heard of Harry in the garden while Christine was playing, to the very end when she was left standing outside the school, and eventually she walked home in a daze, realizing that her little baby was taken by her dead brother. So it was Harry. Let's look at the quote. It was Harry. Harry all the time. Harry, don't take her away. Come back, Harry, Harry. So that was the last scene where she is desperately calling out to Harry to bring back her Christine. So what theme was brought out? Love makes people determined and dedicated. We can see what Mrs. James did to get how much she felt for this child who isn't hers biologically, but she was willing to break all social. She was willing to go back to adoption agency and look for the origin of her Christine. So that also talks about her determination and her dedication, screaming as she found out when her Christine was also taken away from her. Next is The Girl Who Had Everything. Remember, you are to talk about two short stories. So the next short story is that The Girl Who Had Everything by Ellen Cornford. The first stylistic device was realistic dialogue. So you see the back and forth, well, mainly the continuous chatter of Diane towards the narrator, because the narrator was one who would listen more than speak. So it was a conversation between Diane and the narrator. But to her, Miranda Hull, why? Then why? Why? What has she got? She's plain, she's mousy, she plays the zither, for heaven's sake. So this is the dialogue said by Diane when she found out that Paul had left her for Miranda Hull. So one's overconfidence can lead to one's downfall. So we do know her tone while she was saying this. She felt that she couldn't believe that a girl as mousy or as plain as Miranda Hull was able to take her Paul away from her, being the most popular girl in school. So that is a realistic dialogue. So we can really delve into realizing what type of person Diane was. Next stylistic device, we have ironical but effective use of the title. So the irony was that the title was The Girl Who Had Everything. However, the thing that she wanted the most, which was true love, she could not get. So it was the first time in recorded history that Diane had not had her way, which was true love. So the theme of the central message was one should realize that it is not always possible to get what one wants. So once again, you can't get all what you want, or sometimes when you take a piece of the old pie that you are dishing out to everyone, it doesn't taste so nice. So that was the irony of the effective use of the title. Then last up, That was your body. Then you have your conclusion, which is usually the sum up. You rephrase the introduction, and you also, in most cases, you have a lasting message that you would like to that you would like to leave to the reader, which is your teacher or the marker. Alright guys, so that is our plan. Okay, remember this is very brief, so it's not over the top where you are writing too much, wasting time. It's very brief. You might be thinking this is tedious, but I guarantee if you continue to practice before your exams, this won't be as much as you think it is. Awesome, so now we've done our plan discussion. Now we'll move on to the final essay. So we will start with the first paragraph, which is the introduction. Now, basically your introduction, we are going to feed into the skeleton that you had done for plan, and that goes on for the rest of the essay. So the first element of a plan was the rephrasing or rewording of the question, which in our sense, the presence of literary devices not only makes the story interesting, they also help convey important messages to the readers. The two short stories chosen to discuss the question are Harry by Rosemary Timperley and The Girl Who Had Everything by Ellen Cornford. Now this essay, moving on right to our last part, which is the thesis, this essay will discuss the literary devices, two per story, utilized by the author to convey important lessons. So basically, the whole essay will just stick to the plan. Refer back to your plan as you are watching this. Students have been emailing me wanting the hard copy of these notes. Sure, you can, or if it's too much emailing me, you can always screenshot the plan and write it on your own in your books, and you can refer to them. Now let's look at the body. So for Harry, symbolism is used to make Harry's presence felt in the story, and to also show Mrs. James's fear of the ghost that is obsessed with her daughter Christine. The author has connected the ghost to a series of images: sunshine, sharp shadows on grass, bushes of white roses, children with red hair. It was the white rose bush that Christine met the ghost Harry, and the readers later discovered that a similar white rose bush where Harry lay dying as he jumped from their apartment to save his sister, Christine. And this brings out the message of love, care and affection that Harry had for his sister. So that's where he fell among the roses, loved Christine too much, I thought. This is when the lady, their neighbor, was conveying to what she had saw that night, or that day, that night, Christine and Harry's biological father tried to commit murder-suicide, and he had fell through the window. So where Harry had landed was on a white rose bush garden. So that image is seen in the story. Something as mundane or benign, it becomes terrifying when you know that a ghost only haunts places where that is present. So if you can see, I've put a quote. For your short story essays, quotes aren't compulsory, but it can give you a quality mark. But it's encouraged. However, for poetry, they are compulsory. Moving on, Harry loved his sister while still living. He used to adore her, and he sacrificed his life to save her. It was difficult for Harry to be separated from his sister. Even after death, he could not rest in peace. He came to the world of the living to take away his sister. It was Harry all the time. Harry, don't take her away. Come back, Harry. So we know this is the last part of the story when she realizes, after forgetting to go and pick up Christine from kindergarten, that Harry has taken her precious Chris. Moving on, we look at the second literary device utilized by Timperley, which was the first-person method of narration. The readers get to see the story through Mrs. James's eyes. It allows us to feel a mother's desperation in trying to get her daughter away from destructive and obsessive clutches of Harry. We are fearful as we find that Harry indeed was Christine's brother, and as she rushes back to school only to find Christine has already gone home with her brother. In Mrs. James's quest to investigate Christine's background, she discovers the dreadful news that Harry is the dead brother. Now, Mrs. James is even more determined to break the bond between the two siblings. Then we have the quote, "It's just I feel extra responsible for her." So that line comes from when she was talking to Mr. James, being that her worries was because Harry was taking a lot of Christine's imagination, so she thought it was in her imagination, but she was actually seeing her for real. However, she failed and lost her daughter for good. Harry is also determined to reunite with his sister, and even after death, he still wants to be with her. So you can say he was obsessed, or he is someone who did not know love as he did with his parents, so he knew that he could be loved and love Christine. So Conford uses realistic dialogue. So we are moving on to the second short story. This is The Girl Who Had Everything, between the narrator and Diane, who has a high opinion of herself. Basically, she was full of herself. She had a lot of pride. She believes that she is above all others, as well as being a slob, arrogant, and has a negative opinion of others. Even though she was a confident person, she was totally upset and shocked that Paul dumped her for Miranda Hall. So you can see that it was condescending, but it was more or less a slap in the face for her, because this is usually what she does to boys. She dumps them. But on the night of the party in the story, she gets dumped, not directly, but through Paul not talking to her anymore after that party. She rightfully assumed that he had broken up with her. So this was her statement to the narrator. But to her, Miranda Hall, why? Then why? Why? What has she got? She's plain. She's mousy. She plays the zither, for heaven's sake. So even that statement, it's like her trying to say, why would Miranda be as interesting as her? That's how full of herself she was. The next stylistic device used by Conford is the irony expressed in the title of the story, which suggests that one should realize that it is not always possible to get what one wants. Yes, Diane was beautiful, popular, rich, and a high achiever, but was dumped by Paul because she was a non-stop talker. You know, in the story we find out that everything is about Diane. Diane this, Diane that. And also we hear the story through the narrator, her perspective. So for her, it is more, she's quite neutral. She lives vicariously through the Diane, but in the end, she does feel a bit of pride for Miranda Hall, because Miranda Hall does, in a way, represent her, being someone as mousy or being someone as plain. Okay, in addition, anything that was of value to Diane was superficial, materialistic, and shallow. Beauty and popularity will fade away. However, the one thing that she wanted the most, which was love, she could not have. So that was the irony, the girl who had everything, but everything was more of a superficial, meaning it wasn't real. Okay, it was materialistic. There was nothing that came from the heart. Everything was how much money you could give her, what was the most expensive gift you could give her, and the love was such. What do that person bring to her to gain more popularity or to continue to gain her dominance in the school? Okay, so this is the last quote. It was the first time in recorded history that Diane had not had her way, which was true love. Okay, finally, to sum up, authors skillfully exploit literary devices to convey important lessons that could help improve the lives of readers and the society as a whole. Alright, so that is the end of our discussion of our essay. Remember, we try to keep it simple so you do not digress. Just try and answer the question, try and follow the plan. If your exam is tomorrow and you're trying to pull an all-nighter by watching these videos now, please don't overthink it. But if you are one who is confident and has been revising from the beginning, stick to what you know. Don't try and attempt a question that you are not comfortable with. Try and attempt a question that you know you get the most marks. Now remember, literature is the scoring the scoring part of the paper, because total of 2 essays will make up the 30. So thank you once again for watching the video. you have reached the end of the video. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you've learned something. All the best for your exams that is coming or your revision. And please do like and subscribe. Leave a comment, whether you understood what I've said or you think I should bring in more content like this. I will try. Try and upload as much as I can. So with that being said, I wish you all the best and Vinaka Makalim.